The settlement of Machias began with 16 men in 1763. By 1764, many of the unmarried men had brought wives here. Some of the new settlers chose East River as their new home. We were not known for our farming skills. We were logging men and river drivers. We built mills and sawed lumber. In 1766, we plowed a few small fields to start growing crops like potatoes, cabbage, squash, and corn. We did not grow enough vegetables to carry us through the winter, so we relied on shipments from time to time from various ports up and down the coast. Some of our best potatoes were grown on the hill just east of the mouth of Middle River. Eventually, we had a few chickens for laying eggs and for meat to eat. It took time to build our flocks of sheep. We needed wool for a variety of items, from socks, mitts, hats, and more. Winters here are often cold. Wool keeps us warm, even if it's a little bit wet. Our other herds grew in time. More cattle came on ships and were bred for dairy, meat, and pulling loads. As trails and roads were built between the villages, the need for good horses and wagons grew. Slowly, more and more horses were brought here for transportation and for pulling plows in fields, and some men opted for horses for skidding logs in the woods. Here in Machias, we sold our lumber, or we traded it for food brought to us on ships from Boston, Plymouth, Scarborough, and Nova Scotia. They needed our lumber to build houses, barns, schools, churches, and stores, and we needed their food in order to survive. It worked out well because the ships were able to truck cargo both ways. In 1766, we also started writing letters to Nova Scotia to our north to ask if we could become an official township. Our numbers were growing and more people wanted to move here. We wanted a school and a minister of the gospel. Nova Scotia ignored our requests year after year. 1767 was a very difficult year. Our whole settlement nearly failed. It was a year that tested our ability to help each other in order to survive. Our people are resilient, hard workers who look out for each other in times of need. Around here, when someone is in need, people pitch in and help. It all started when the ship bringing our food for the winter stopped in a cove at the mouth of a river one night that was especially cold, and the ocean water froze around it. It was trapped, and so was all of our food. We had no pork and very little flour. Our vegetables were all gone. We didn't even have any molasses, sugar, or maple syrup. Some called 1767 the year of poverty. Others called it the year of the clam. Men and women went to the mudflats to dig clams from the sandy mud. It was freezing cold, and we could only get clams at low tide. Digging clams was not easy. It is hard on your back and your legs. In the winter months, your hands freeze as you reach into the mud to pull out the clams. Anyone who could collect food was expected to do so. We ate steamed clams, fried clams, and baked clams. My favorite was steamed clams with potato sprouts and a little wheat flour, but we ran out of flour by the first of the new year. The men were still cutting trees that winter. It takes a lot of energy to work in the woods when in the harsh, cold winter months. They lost a lot of weight and became weak because we did not have enough food. The people on the river kept a watchful eye on the horizon for the masts and sails of our supply ship, but the ship never came into view. It was some time before we realized that the ship was frozen in the ice and that our food was not coming. We were really discouraged and we felt very desperate, but we never gave up. We never lost faith. Those of us who had fowling guns with smooth bore barrels used them to fire lead balls, buckshot, or duck shot. They were not very accurate when we were shooting lead round balls, but they worked well when shooting ducks with the fine shot. We have always had a lot of birds on the ocean and a few grouse in our woods. The grouse are by far the best eating fowl we have here. Hare were easily shot with duck shot. Occasionally, we get a moose, a deer, or a caribou using lead round ball or a buckshot. Yes, we actually had a lot of caribou around here back then. The village would eat a whole deer in a day or two. A moose would feed us for 3 or 4 days. We needed a lot of food to survive. It took a lot of work and energy to go hunting and bring back meat. It was really difficult work in the winter, but we stayed positive and we pulled through together. A few of the men trapped animals with foothold traps. We ate beaver and muskrat. They actually tasted really good. The Passamaquoddy Indians taught us how good the muskrats were to eat. It helped us from starving. The Indians knew many ways to cure and cook the animals they caught. They also traded some of their fur with us. They liked our metal pots, muskets, beads, and wool blankets. Several Indians also traded fur in Nova Scotia. They traveled up and down the coast in large sea-going canoes and boats. We sent many of our furs from the animals back to Boston to make hats and other clothing. Many of our furs were shipped to England for very high prices. We've always been friends with the Passamaquoddies, Penobscots, Maliseets, and Micmacs. They have helped us, and we help them. They have camps all around Machias Bay and the Bay of Fundy. They even have camps up many of the local rivers.